into flooring models, this particular build we're going to be tackling is Revell's new-ish tooled 1/72 scale Hadley Page Halifax B. Now, we've seen the Halifax before. To be honest, none of them have been very nice. They've been very old school, 1970s moulds, things like that. But this is the B type. It's got a slightly different front on it and everything else like that. But the kit isn't without its problems, and it's had a lot of criticism about the actual engines, the front radiators, the props, and the spinner caps. So, lo and behold, we've actually got a aftermarket replacement set which should fix all these problems. So there's going to be a bit of cutting and shutting and everything else on this, but it should be pretty nice. Also, just to liven it up, because being a bomber, it's got quite a lot of glass work in there, I thought it'd be nice to use a colour photo etch set. Bit of a shortcut and a cop out, I know, but I think it will look really nice on this one for down in the cockpit area itself. The kit itself should be no problem going together, but some of this what we're going to concentrate on is doing black work. We often get asked about doing black work, making it look realistic, fading it, giving it staining, oil marks, things like that. So we can take care of doing things like that. And then obviously we've got a standard nice World War II camo pattern on the top as well. So it should be a lot of fun. So let's get on with it. Okay, so on with the Halifax. Now, the thing is, a couple of things you need to decide right off the bat, and that was obviously the model you're going to be making. From our point of view, we're going to be doing here is the Mark II, which has actually got the turret on the top with the bomb aimer's window underneath, instead of the more classic glass overall one, which we've got down on here. Okay, we'll get to them. So this is what we've actually got. Let me get rid of that bit. This is the other version, obviously, you can do, which has got the more traditional glass total bulbous nose on the front, okay? And it doesn't have these sort of side windows on there and things like that. So there's a few little differences you're going to have to watch as you make your way through. This is the version, obviously, we're going to be doing. So obviously, this is from 1942. It's the earlier version. This is the 1945, the later version, okay? So there's a couple of discrepancies in the instructions already that I've seen, and I'll point them out as we go along. But at the moment, what we've been doing is, because obviously we've got upgrade sets and various things to it, we want to know when and how and where they're obviously going to be fitted into it. So there's always a good idea, especially with the photo etch stuff, is to go through the sheet and work out also how you're going to tackle it. Are you going to use every single part in here? And if you do, fair enough. You guys who know me know I won't. I'll just pick out all the stuff that I think is important or can be seen. And then the rest of it I might do or I might not. For instance, the seat seems to be a lot of work for something you're hardly going to see, to be honest. So I might skip on that one. The other seats and various bits and pieces obviously we'll take care of and we'll do. But generally, most of it is pretty straightforward. I'm going through some of the parts. So some of it is just direct ones that are going to be put on. So we've got a nice one here for the gun one is going to be put on. Some of these other ones there, very nice touches going to go through. New flooring, which is something we've taken care of already. So we've attacked this one and we've sanded all of this flush right off the top, okay, because this is this part down here. So we've taken care of that. That's all done and dusted. All right, and then we've been going around generally and taking care of other things. So the instrument panel, as you can see, we've taken the top one off. And to be honest, the way I've been doing it is with a skinny stick. It's quite coarse and we just literally go over it. Start with the coarse one. Okay, and as soon as you've got through the major details and everything else, so you're just down to the normal plastic, we switch over to the finer side of this one just to take care of it like that. Okay, so it's got a good bed for when the colour photo etch comes in, because we've got all of this lovely colour photo etch, which is actually going to be great and going to obviously give us the detail that we want, as well as a standard photo etch, which we can see down here, which we'll have a look at using a little bit later as we make our way through. But at this point we're just working out, okay, some of it we're thinking yeah we'll use it, other bits we're thinking probably we won't. All right, so it's just personal choice on how you're going to do it and adding some of the little details. So down in here, for instance, this is the rudder pedals, which are completely different from what the kit had, all right, and various things. And then on the other side you can see some of the other ones, so we've gone along as well and we've taken care of those. So we've taken some of the details off some of the areas. What have I done with them even? We had them all here earlier. Okay, but basically we've gone along and we've tidied up. So we've taken off all these details down, like on this guy down on here. They've gone now, okay, and everything else. Then you've got the details on the inside as well. So we've sanded off all of these and cleaned all of these up and all the rest of it. The other thing as well is putting on the front. Now, I was a little bit dubious about this being a good fit, but actually it goes on there very, very nicely. Okay, so you can do the usual with this one. We're just going to use a dab of glue just to preload the area. Okay, and then we're just going to come in and sit it in, and as you can see, actually for something that is just a straightforward on the end fit like that, it's really nice. Okay, so we just give it a little bit of a nudge, and then once it's over, we're just going to re-glue just to make sure this front end isn't going to go anywhere. Okay, and that is taking care of it. This side doesn't have it. Now, one of the instructions they call out with, that's why I mention it, they can be a little bit different, is down in here when you're doing 100, it says cut out this window, okay, and you do it and all the rest of it. Trouble is, it's already out. It's already been cut out, so I'm not quite sure what the instructions are on about there. It's this window here, even this one up here, and it's already been cut out. Okay, if you were doing the other version, you wouldn't want it, so I'm assuming there must be another one to put in there or something else like that. The glass work as well, these little windows all the way down here, we're going to do the PVA glue trick, so I'm not worried about those, but obviously installing the other glass, we're going to have to put those in. But anything that is sort of, you know, this one even down here, you could probably get away with a PVA trick, but all these little round ones, they're going to be done separately, so I'm not worried about putting the glass into any of those. So really it's just a case now of going around, removing all the parts in the red, cleaning all of those up, making sure they're exactly how we want them to be. Okay, and then what we can actually do is then paint it, get it completely painted all internally, which is pretty straightforward on this. We have got here is what we're going to use, the interior green, so it's it's 010 for the Vallejo Model Air, and it's the interior green, and then we've got a black section at the front around the cockpit area and around for the gunners and various things down there. That's the only difference. Then we can get in there and we can actually then do some weathering, a little bit of wash work and everything else, so it just shows up very nicely. Once we've done that, then we can actually then come in and put the photo etch onto it and glue them all into position, and that way it'll give us all the detail and the bling and the final assembly, put those together, and then you can wrap up it, and it will have a lot more detail than it would be if it is straightforward out of the box. So what I'm going to do now is carry on, get all these parts cleaned up and everything else. I'm going to paint the entire thing with the interior green, just straight the way over it, and then I'll come in with you and we'll mask off the areas that we want to do in the black, okay, and then we'll talk about obviously fitting on the various colour photo etch parts and everything in there, and then really bringing the entire cockpit together. Okay, so we've pushed on quite a bit. It's all the boring bits and pieces that I've been trying to catch up with over the weekend. So actually what we've done here, you can probably see we've got a lot of this photo etch work all done. Okay, now if we just talk you through, so we've basically put the cockpit areas together, and then we've gone through it. Some of it in my usual style, I thought it's not worth all that hassle for making it, so we've scrapped it and we've done other things. To start with, up here on the seat. So for instance, normally it would have you dismantle the seat completely, okay, and then you're actually going to make up a photo etch one. Okay, I can't see the point of that really, you're not going to see it by the time it's got the belts hanging over it and all the bits and pieces. So actually what we've done, we've used the backing plate. So we've got that one on, we've sanded down the plastic smoother, we've got the handbrakey thing, whatever that is. Okay, that is on there and everything else. And what we could do is put the bars on the back, which I'll probably do. I haven't actually done that yet. But by the time it's got the harness on, it's painted and weathered, you're hardly going to see it anyway. Other things we have done though, down here we've done the control yoke, so yes, that is fitted and installed and done. We've cut off the entire floor section, as you can imagine, and we've replaced it with photo etch, as you can see just down here, looking absolutely lovely. All right, the guns to talk about in a moment. Okay, we've gone along, we've removed all the surface detail from absolutely everything. So we've gone around and done that. Down in the front section here, you might be able to see on one of the cameras, we've got the radio equipment boxes have been put in. We've replaced the single seat with the dual, and we've got the cover down here in the closed position with a cushion on the front, okay? And we've put in all the details, and hopefully you can see at the front here, down and here, we've got all the dials, catching them in the light, and the various bits and pieces behind the cockpit. We've installed all of those. So they're all round here. This guy here, removing this pillar and replacing it with a photo etch, I haven't bothered because quite frankly there's a lot of bending and folding and all the rest of it for very little payoff, so I haven't bothered with that. Okay, that's all those areas put in. We've done all of those, that's all good. The trim wheel we've sorted out, we've put all of that in, and then the bins and things like that underneath. You might be able to see it's down the back, down in there. Okay, just catch it in the light glistening. Okay, those are all in. Okay, the same time we've done the main cockpit area at the front, so we removed all the surface details we spoke about. That's all been removed from down in here, so it's all ready for placards. We've also sprayed it black and green, and to be honest, we've got a little bit of photo etch. These little guys, cushions going to go on the front. They need to be painted up as well, so I'm going to have to respray that entire front area black again, but it's on there. And then obviously we're going to have to do this. I've done it with the green so you can see it better, all right, and everything else like that, but that is all pretty good. Very happy with how that's all turned out. So what I can do now is spray the rest of that interior green right the way over it again, let that dry, and then what we can actually do is weather it, give it some dirt, some grime, some dry brushing, things like that all over it, and then we can actually stick on the placards on there, okay, which we'll do in a moment. So next up with that, we'll get that one sprayed. At the same time, we've got a lot of sprues and there's a lot of things going on here, so I took the time to sort of start and work my way through them, as you can imagine. Okay, so that is all of that one done. So next up, it's a case of, right, okay, where can we move afterwards? So when you look at the instructions, as you can see down here, after you've done the cockpit work and all the bits and pieces, you actually start on the wheel wells. Okay, so the wheel wells themselves are very straightforward the way they go, but I must admit I have done it slightly different. So down in the front here we've got the wing sections, so making sure you've opening up the holes, they're all opened up, and on the top as well. It's quite important because you're trying to find those afterwards will be a little bit of a nightmare. Okay, we've made up the wheel tub itself very straightforward, and actually it goes together really well, very well designed. So you've just got a front plate and the rear. Now the instructions, you see them down here, would have you trying to glue this front plate on, which is this guy, which is going to be, to be honest, swinging in the breeze. I think it can find a slightly better way. Okay, so what we have over here is the thing about putting it into the upper area, and you can see about opening the holes, so we can do that now. Okay, and again we'll say lower area. The great thing is these little pins down the side here actually lock this into position perfectly well. Okay, and it does fit absolutely beautifully. All right, so we're just going to take some extra thin and we're just going to glue this guy, generous amounts of it, right the way, all the way in and around. Okay, so that is in there like that. Okay, so once that one is in, as I said, we're not going to put that top plate on. All right, and then it's a case of sandwiching in the top half. Now normally you'd let that dry, but I'm going to push my luck and come through. Now something I did find, which would be interesting to see, is this one is exactly the same. This pin here in this corner just doesn't properly go. So last time I had it halfway glued. I'm actually going to remove that. A couple of swipes with a medium stick. And we're just going to take out these locating tabs. Obviously you could nip them off with a knife, because I just found them to be nothing short of useless. The rest of it all seemed to be pretty good. Alright, so then what we're going to do is going to put the front halves together. So we got this one in just down in here, so we can flip this guy over from the underside. Good amount of glue, and we're just going to glue it from the inside for the minute. Okay, so once we got that on, trusty pegs, we can do that. Then we got this guy just down the front here. So what I'm going to do is just literally do the old tap and drag. Normally if you're a little bit worried, just do it upside down and do the tap underneath. Okay, so another peg just there for the middle, and we're just going to work our way along. So now I'm going to put it downwards. This just stops it from going down. Sometimes if you do it this way and you put a bit of glue, runs under your finger, you ended up with a welded mark where your finger was. So if you just take your time and tap and drag and just let the capillary action draw it into the gap, it doesn't matter if it's even not closed, and then you can use a couple of pegs, old is best, just to take care, and then just the ends. So we're just going to glue those up. Okay, and then this guy down the back of this, so just in between. Generous glue, don't skimp on this because you'll be sanding, especially on those leading edges and things like that. Okay, so that's that one in. Then this trailing edge, as I say, fits a lot better. Now, don't worry too much if you've got a gap between the two, because don't forget, technically this is the flaps to the upper wing area. Alright, but it can be a little bit problematic. So I've got some little, how well these are going to grab here. I'm hoping they are, so that's just got it in there. And then we're just going to tap and let it be drawn along the entire line. Now the thing is, don't put too much glue because otherwise it ends up squirting out. Okay, and then what you can do, grab your scissors and just gently push. Don't cut, because obviously you don't want to put lines in, but just by pulling it together, you should find you'll get a better fit. Okay, and you can let the glue squash out, and then afterwards we can come in and take care of it. Okay, but there we go, a little bit just in the middle there. But if you use the tips of your scissors, but don't push too hard, because if you push too hard you're going to cut into it, and then you're going to have a slice mark in your plastic. There we go. And then this end, if I can find somewhere to grab it, we're just going to put glue in the top. And if you've got a long brush, you could actually feed this in the end. Okay, but generally that's pretty good. Just going to give it a little bit of a squeeze. And as I say, this is the thing, the ends don't like it. And if you come in with pegs, the trouble that you'll have is that if you peg it in the middle, it's going to push it open, so don't actually peg it. All right, that would be my advice on that one. Okay, so we can just put that down for a second, just like that. Now, if I can find what I've done with it. You've also got the wingtip itself. Okay, so we've already glued the two halves together, and in a moment we can stick the end of that on. Okay, then if we can find it, what we want to do now is just take off the actual engine part. Okay, so these are the engines. Now, I must admit, when I was doing this, I really thought these were going to be horrible. But as you'll see in a moment, we've already done a wing, and they worked a treat. The other little tip here, when you get the sprue tabs here, don't come in and start sanding too heavy. Take the major bit of it off, but the thing is, you can actually make a curve. And if you make a curve, you get two halves together, you end up with something you need to fill, all right? So literally, all you want to do here is just take the height of it off, and making sure it's smooth on the inside. Once it's together, sand your life away, okay? Go for your life. But you don't want to be sanding too much now, because what's going to happen is you're going to go in slightly at an angle, and when you're at an angle, when you put the two halves together, you're going to end up with a trench, and then you're going to have to fill it, okay? So sometimes it's even better not to touch them at all. So just have a little bit of a test fit, and to make sure, like here, that goes together perfectly well. And we just try this back end as well. Okay, just to make sure they do go together with no problem. Again, no problem, but we have got a sprue tab, but we'll take care of that in a few moments. Okay, now as that is drying, there's other bits and pieces you can be doing. Okay, the other one is the tailplane. Now the tailplane, which is, as I said, we're all over the place with this, but it is the great thing because things can be drying as you make your way through. The tailplanes, which is this here, literally we've got these guys here, number 45 at the top, two halves go together, very simple, very straightforward. Then we've got these guys down on here, okay, for the rest of the tailplane, that goes together again, no problem at all, all right. Technically, don't put it together yet because it's going to be a working tailplane and it'll be no glue as it joins the actual fuselage, okay. Your decision is this bit on the back because you actually get both types with the kit, which is quite a nice touch because this version you see down here is the early version. The later version has the full glass front, which the kit comes with, as we know, and it comes with the different tails. So you might notice these are the guys here. These are square tails at the back, and you get the square type rudders. We're using the more triangle type ones, okay, which are sort of more curved and everything else like that. So actually what we have is have them down here. All right, we'll just slide that slightly out of the way. Okay, so we've got those two. We've already put the two halves of the rudder together, but you might notice it's got a little bit of a split on there. So what we need to do then is come up and actually feed this guy in, and you've got little tabs up the top and it's going to fit into, but you don't want to get any glue at those, or too much down on here, because you want it to be a somewhat moving part, okay? And it doesn't matter if it's not a total moving part. Let me just check the one we did earlier, which is now glued solid, so we will put this in the neutral position. Okay, so what we're going to do is just tuck him upside down, hold him down here, then in with the glue, both sides. But these are all little jobs. The great thing about multi-engine bombers is you can do all this as the thing is drying in different areas. Okay, so we get all of that on there like that. Insert the back. A little bit of glue on my fingers, so we're just making sure that is all off. Click him down. Gluey fingers, not good. Okay, bit of a pinch, just to make sure that goes all the way around. Got a little bit of a gap going down the bottom, so we're going to rotate upside down, touch the bottom, let the capillary action draw it up. Then I'm just going to come in with scissors just to bite it closed. And just hold it for a sec. To be honest, we're on the other end as well, so we're just going to get it down in there. Flip it around the other way, squeeze, to be honest, we haven't had too much problem with flash or ejector pins getting in the way of anything. Okay, and that is on there like that. One thing to remember, you might notice we've got the little trim tab part just down here. Those go on the inside. It doesn't show it on the instructions. Can't really see it on the box art, although I wouldn't trust it. But looking at references, the little trim tab you can see just in here goes on the inside. Okay, then when it's together, you can do it now or later, it's personal choice, but this guy will fit in here with a bit of a click. I'm not going to quite do it yet because this is still very gluey. Just trying to get this to close over. That should be dry now. Okay, well that goes in, and when you're done you end up with this. Okay, so that is done. Trim tab, as we said, is on the inside, and then what will technically happen is you will have a situation where this guy will come in, but to try and get it in the hole there is a little bit tricky. Okay, so you might need to sort of just bend him up a bit, or even you could cut the tab down. In fact, that's not going to work, so what we're going to have to do is just going to trim this down so there's enough just to hold it. Nope. Bit more, because this will just make this somewhat easier. From the bottom. Didn't realise that these actually pushed all the way in like so, but that is in there. But there's enough tab space left in there to make this a working part, because obviously we do want it deflected slightly down. We're going to be doing this thing powered down and all the rest of it, but that goes on there like that, and we'll join the fuselage a little bit later on. Okay, so that's that one on. Same time, if you wanted to, obviously depending on which one you had, which one are we now, you could actually do, where is it? Here we go. As I say, these instructions, after working with Revell's new instructions, these are positively horrible. Okay, so down here you've actually got the main gear. So these are these guys, okay? So actually what you got is just two halves and this plate goes in, just making sure the rounded scoop goes to the top, and then on the underside there's a little pin that sticks out in the middle. You might just see it just down there in the middle. It's right here, okay? Make sure that's facing with all the parts going the same way, okay? So just a little thing. Again, instructions don't show it, so just catching that one. And then the same with the main gear parts. As you imagine, it's just these parts going together, those push in. Wheels and various other bits we've done as well, so we've just got two halves of the wheels together there. We've done the guns as well there already. They're very straightforward, no problem at all. And to be honest, we've done the bombs, which are a slow, laborious job all the way through. Okay. The other thing you can do is actually add the aileron onto the wings. Okay, so we just snip these off. And it's amazing really, because this kit, there's just so much stuff. You know, there's absolutely tons and tons and tons of parts, of sprues and all the rest of it. Half of it you're not going to use, which we'll talk about in a moment. Okay, so we've cleaned these off. One thing to look at, which hopefully this will be dry. I know I'm rushing this slightly a little bit faster than I'd like to, but we're hoping we've got them. These can all come off now. Okay, not too bad. What we're going to do is I'll re-glue everywhere afterwards, but you can see we've got quite a good seam down the back, no problem at all. You might notice down here, these tabs coming down have got flash all over them. Okay, so you have got a couple of options. One is not to worry about it and just melt it through, which is probably the better technique, because these tabs hardly move. All right, but generally what's going to happen is these are going to fit in the end just like this. And what we're going to do, I'm going to glue mine into position in the neutral, because quite frankly it hardly moves. The other one does move a little bit, but it's hardly anything. So we just put that on. The angled side, you know, is going to go on the underside again, and then we're just going to come along and we're just going to give that a nudge, and there is your aileron neutral position, bottom of the wing, just like that. Okay, but the groove goes to the underside. Again, it doesn't mention it, but the deflection is downwards, not upwards. Okay, and that's how it goes along. And then once that is on, once we've done with it, we've got the wingtip. So we'll just see how this is going to fit for the moment. To be honest, the other side, pretty much like this one, is a very, very nice fit. Good dollop of glue. As I say, it may seem I'm rushing this, but actually it goes together really, really well. This is one of Revell's better kits, shall we say, because we're not getting the usual problems. And there we go, that is on, wingtip is in and everything else like that. So now you can fit these engine nautical. So I'm going to do the outside one first. And again, this is how I did it. I did it in 2 sections because it actually fits quite well. But what you've got to do is line up this top and get that in. Okay, once that is in, like there, we're just going to glue it. And it pushes right up to the pins on the inside, okay? So we're just going to put that in, literally like that. I'm going to give it a nudge, I'm going to hold it. I'm using the outer side because, to be honest, the outer side you're going to see more than the inside. So if you're going to have any problems where you want a perfection, you want to be the side you can see. So obviously on the bomber, you can look in, because we're talking this area here, you can see it. You won't be able to see the inside as easy, okay? But these, to be honest, when I looked at it, I was looking at the instructions thinking, now there's a filler job if ever I've seen one, and all the rest of it. But in truth, no problem at all. No filler whatsoever on the other wing, which you'll see in a moment. Okay, we get both of these on, then I'll show you. So we're just going to hold it right there, just for a moment, just so it bites. Now, if I was doing this normally, like I did the other one, I'd leave this now for half an hour, go away, have a coffee, come back, and when it is totally welded up, then I would do the other side. Okay, but what we're going to do is come in. Now, once we've got this outer side in, we can put this front plate in, and as you'll find, it will sit in there very, very nicely. I don't know which way the other one goes up now. All to the downside. So this literally goes with a little nick out of it to the downside, and what you can actually do is fit that in now and give it a bit of a nudge. Okay, and you will find it sits in there beautifully well and gives you the correct angles and all the bits and pieces, instead of doing it the other way of having it flapping around at the front and trying to push it in and get it all to line up and everything else like that. And then what happens is when this side comes in, it aids it fitting in. Okay, now the other thing as well, you've got a little fan to put in the front, so don't glue this total front edge yet, because it's easier to put this in afterwards. Okay, so that is going to fit in and go in once we've got this in. Little tab just underneath, it's pulling slightly. Okay, and then that goes in, and we're just going to glue, and we're going to glue, and we're going to glue, and then we can get in the top and glue it this way, which saves a little bit of time, a little bit of hassle. Okay, we're just going to put a little bit of glue just at the back, but not at the front, because as I say, we need to get in the front. This is just to hold it. Okay, when you flip this guy over and give this a nudge, it's moved slightly, you'll see we've hardly got anything up here on the front. It's pretty much perfect. You need a little bit of a squeeze. Okay, and as I say, I know I'm rushing this one, but this is just to show. And then that goes in very, very nicely. Okay, got a little bit of movement just on this front. If I give it a bit of a nudge, I'm hoping we've got enough to pull that in. As I say, there's not much due care and attention going on here. It's more a case of a due care and chuck it in. Okay, and down the back. Okay, just a tiny little bit of movement on there. So what I'm going to do, in fact, have a clamp. I'm just going to pull this nose. If I can get this on, it's going to fit. There we go. Just going to nudge that on. And then what you want to do when you're using a clamp, just run around and make sure you're fine. But you can notice we've got no gaps anywhere whatsoever. To be honest, that is one of the best fitting engine nauticals to a body I've seen on a World War II bomber in a long time. Okay. Alright, so that's that one going on, and then once it's on, it should look something like this. Okay, so that's all pretty straightforward, no problem with that at all. As you can notice, we've got the resin on and all the rest of it, which we'll look at in a moment. Alright, but generally, as you can see, no fit issues or problems, and we've got no filler on the top there whatsoever, but it comes along very, very nicely. So what we're going to do, just let that one dry for a few minutes, all right, and then we're going to talk about putting the resin nautical scoop on the front. Now this is a replacement set that we've got, which we had turn up here, we've got that around a bit, which is this stuff, which actually again is one of those really weird things. cut, shut, and put it on, and job done. It is literally as simple as that. It works extremely well. We have got a downside because the scoops are an awful fit and they don't work, but there's always a downside to absolutely everything. But what we'll do is we're going to let that one dry, give it a bit of time just to completely go off and everything else like that, so it's workable. And then we're going to come in, we'll get this engine attached, and we'll get this nautical, as you can see, this scoop system, the resin replacement one with far better detail, installed onto that engine, and we can get the actual flap here, the cooler exhaust flap. We can show you about fitting that. All of these work on this model, which is a bit of a rarity for me, but they all work. So we can either have it in the closed position like this, we can have it up, or we can have it deployed down, whichever way you actually want it. Okay, so we're going to let that dry. I'm going to get this guy all painted green. All right, so we'll get that one sorted, get that one all painted and everything else. So then next up, as I say, we'll get the placards onto this one and weathered and done and completed. Okay, we'll get the engines finally installed and done and everything on that one. Okay, and then we can really start bringing it together.